Good evening and welcome to the Star Chamber Show live podcast. It is a great Wednesday evening here in central Kentucky, Lexington to be specific. And this is Stephen Zimmer broadcasting to you live as one of the co hosts for the evening. And joining me tonight will be the lovely, the vivacious, the audacious, the loquacious Holly Phillippe in just a couple of minutes. She is just tying up a couple of things, but she will be on the air just shortly here for episode number 448. And chat room is open, and it is a great place to be if you want to get some comments in tonight and meet some of the other listeners. We've got some great ones in already. We've got Black Dragon Radio, and we've got award-winning author and screenwriter Carol Preflattish and award-winning screenwriter author D.L. Hearn, also known as Moon. Yes, the one and only. And then also L.J. Mack has just entered the chat room. Great to see everybody coming in, and tonight we're going to have a great discussion. It's going to be on another theme-oriented show. We did one a couple of weeks ago, and it went over really well. We had a lot of positive feedback on that, had a lot of listeners that enjoyed it. And so, yeah, we're going to start sprinkling in a few more of these. And tonight we do have a very timely topic to share with all of you. And we will, as before, open things up for call-ins. We're not going to be taking calls just yet. Just to let you know, we're not going to be taking calls just yet. But yes, we're going to open up the line for call-ins just a little bit after we get our first segment done. So yes, so hang on, folks. Yeah, it's coming. And I'll have Holly on here in a second, so we'll talk about the topic for tonight. But I'll go ahead and get some info to you because, of course, we are affiliated with the Imaginarium Convention. So yes, I'm very happy to report to you that, yes, we just found out today, a little bit earlier, that book publicist Scott Lorenz on the West Wind Communications blog named Imaginarium as one of the top writers conferences for 2025. So, yeah, I want to thank Scott Lorenz and West Wind Communications. Just came to our attention today, in fact, for having us on their list of top writers conferences for 2025. And so, yes, and it's been busy, mainly a lot of programming updates, a lot of them. So we're going to get right into it because we have had no less than 14 new panels and 2 new workshops added the past couple of days. So yeah, a lot of great new topics. Of course, the programming is front and center at Imaginarium with over 135 sessions this year. Should be a little bit more than that, about 135 to 140 sessions of panel and workshop programming. Yeah, it's packed, and hopefully the biggest problem is just deciding what you want to see in a given hour. So without further ado, I'll get into some of the new additions to the convention. So we are going to have panels on content creating, which is all about the world of YouTubers and social media, sharing tips on producing content and all the things that come with that. And so, yes, that'll be a good one with that appeals to a lot of areas of the convention. Crafting cross-genre, which is, as it says, writing within the vast multitude of genres and how to blend them effectively. Final drafts, discussing on the main issues to check before handing your manuscript to an editor. We're going to have another panel on language barriers and dialogue. And so this is going with... if you have a limited understanding of the language or dialect within your dialogue, you know what to do, some advice on handling language and language barriers within the dialogue of your stories. Modern subgenres, as we know, there's always more and more subgenres and subgenres, and yeah, sometimes there's some real niche ones. So this will be a fun one because it's kind of going over some of the newest and some of the emerging subgenres and subgenres, and all in those genre hierarchies. Then we also have researching myths and legends, and this is more of a research-oriented panel about researching, with journeys and insights into the myths and legends of history. Sci-fi through the ages, which is going to be about, as it says, writing sci-fi through the years, from classic ages of sci-fi all the way up to today. Self-editing, this is talks about why writers cannot self-reflect their manuscript critically entirely, and why beta readers and hiring a professional editor are important. Using AI ethically, yes, and that is ties into tonight's topic, as a matter of fact. And so, as we say here, using AI as a tool, but not as a creation element, or the main creative part. So yeah, that's gonna be a good panel discussion. Probably a very vibrant discussion. Also, using social media effectively, which is talking about the algorithms and tools of the larger platforms to help you understand we each can effectively offer. They're very different. Their algorithms work different. So this will break down all the big ones: Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, X, all the YouTube, a lot of larger platforms. Writing through blocks, and of course, this is on the topic of writing blocks and writer's blocks, and whether you believe in them or not. But yes, when you're getting a little bit struggling with the creative juices, how to push through your own blocks. So yeah, that was one group of 11 panels that we announced, and then we also announced another 3 additional panels and 2 workshops today. The panels were audiobook narration versus AI, and that gets into the very hot topic on the rise of audiobook narration utilizing AI and the ethical ramifications versus, having actual human talent doing audiobook narration. Then we're going to have one called Dr. Moreau's Laboratory, Animal Mashups and Chaos, moderator Barbara V. Evers. And yes, the panelists get to become mad scientists and it's going to be a really fun interactive
Yes.
panel using animal cards and making animal mashups, and yeah, just gonna be a lot of fun. And then Slush Fest is the other panel that we've added, and that's also with Barbara V. Evers as the moderator, and that is what it seems, getting a peek at how an agent or an editor evaluates a submission. And then last but not least, we had 2 workshops added: Killing Off Your Characters, presented by Barbara V. Evers. And this is about, yes, the hallmarks of a satisfying death scene, what you need in order for your readers to care about killing off your characters. So yes, even if you're as extensive at it as George R. R. Martin,
Yes.
yes, it'll be a fun workshop. And then public speaking for creatives, and it's all about that. Yeah, because a lot of creatives are introverts, and this is all about how to find opportunities and create and delivering effective messaging, and also about nerves and imposter syndrome. And that is public speaking workshop, which is going to be invaluable, I think, for a lot of folks. And that is also by Barbara V. Evers. So yes, and I heard Holly. Yeah, Holly is on while I was going through that list. So hey,
I
Holly.
am here. I wanted to tell about the Slush Fest.
Yes, all right.
Um, yeah,
Fill
I
us
was
in.
wanting to talk about it. My ring fell on the floor. Oh, I was talking to Bentley. Sorry. Yes, it fell on the floor. It fell right
All
here
right,
somewhere.
let's go.
I'm having Bentley look for something. Anyway,
Okay.
I wanted to touch on Slush Fest a little bit because this here is going to be really cool. They're going to bring in a sample. All the attendees will bring in samples of their writing. A story, their first page, and they will start reading, and then the attendees plus the panelists, which will be made up of published authors, editors, um, publishers, all that, literary agents, they will also raise their hands when they would quit reading it. So you can find out, oh man, this is where I need to change it. And then they'll discuss why they quit reading it. And everybody will just, tell their reasoning of why they would quit reading it in that many words. So it's like a super beta reading. Like a, speed dating. This is speed beta reading, if you say, but yeah, it gives you great insight into your first page to get you started on the right track. And then you can go from there.
Yeah, I think that's going to be. We haven't had a workshop or a panel like that yet. So I think this does reflect
Well,
some of the really creative stuff that's coming into this, as far as
we,
with actual samples coming in, and
yes,
real
we
slush
had a
pile.
similar one. We had a similar one last year that I'd created there on the end, but I called it something else. It wasn't quite like this one. You have to read the details on this one. It's being more specific, like it has to be uh 12 size font, they want double
Yeah.
spacing, when they hand it in. So you have to read the description really good to see, because you're going to hand this in to the panelists that are sitting up there. And it'll be a group of, 5 or 6 professionals in the business that can give you um, effective feedback, honest feedback.
Yes, and it's gonna be awesome. But that give you an idea, because I mean we are gonna be adding a lot more to the page. We do have a programming page up on the official site that's tracking all the workshops and panels now. So go check that out. And yes, please do give some consideration to our sponsorships. We do have one for those that can't make it here in person this summer, but who would like a sponsorship presence. We do have a level for that, and we also have an individual patron level. So yes, they're not that much. They're one patron level is like 75. The one for if you can't be here but like to be a sponsor is like 250, and then the other levels are not too much more. So check them out. So yeah, it really does help us to add content and grow the convention. And we are looking for some new folks aboard as sponsors and patrons right now. So check that out. And yes, we're going to go ahead and get right into the folks that brought you tonight's show, and that would be Per Bostet Publications and also Sandy Lender. And then we're also going to play a little bit from our good friend and Imaginarium spotlighted guest, James Sabata, with his Spirited Giving charity event that's coming up right on the eve of AuthorCon. A great event out in Williamsburg, Virginia this March. So, yes, James has a great charity event that's going on that Thursday night that week. And so we definitely want to give support to what they're doing. It's a great cause. It goes to great, people really in need. I've seen some stories about, who it's helped, and it's just great stuff. So check it out. But yes, you'll also be hearing a little bit from James about that. So, but I will go ahead and give you first about Per Bostet, and then we'll go to Sandy, and I'll give you a little from James. Per Bostet Publications is a small press based in the Louisville metro area, specializing in speculative fiction and other outside-the-box books. With over 40 titles in print and ebook formats and a handful of audiobooks, Per Bostet offers a little bit of everything. Check out Frenemies in Space, Marian Allen's new science fiction short story collection featuring return character Smartmouth Connie Phelan. Or try Michael Dabney's latest David Blaze mystery, A Deadly Game, a prequel set in 1984 Philly. You can find these titles and more at perbostetpublications.com, at Amazon, or you can find the press in person at Kentucky and Indiana book fairs and conventions. Per Bostet Publications, where timeless tales unfold. And thank you to Sarah Marian Allen, and Teely Harris, the literary triumvirate. So yes, and now I will go on over to Sandy with a little bit of a Valentine's theme in this one. So here you go.
Now that the season of love and romance is underway, don't forget that author Sandy Lender has books for everyone. From the Fairy Holidays series to her epic fantasy series, there's a touch of romance woven beneath the action, or horror, or sword and sorcery, or space dragons, or whatever flavor of title you pick out. Visit Sandy Lender's author page on Amazon to see the over 20 titles under the speculative fiction umbrella and pick out your next favorite story today. Right now, Sandy recommends the vampire satire My Fairy Valentine for an entertaining light romance read going into Valentine's Day.
Yes, and it is fantastic. It is a
Uh-huh.
fantastic book, which I'm familiar with that one as well, and I can definitely give that a full endorsement. But yes, have a great Valentine's with Sandy Lender's work. Yeah, because she is just a great storyteller and a masterful genre blender. And now a little bit from James, and yes, please do give Spirited Giving your thoughts in terms of supporting it. Great event, great people involved. Here you go.
The Spirited Giving fundraiser returns on Thursday, March 27th, as part of AuthorCon 5 in Williamsburg, Virginia, featuring author readings from Jamie Flanagan, Brian Keene, D.M. Gay, and Rebecca Cuthbert, as well as a live performance of the epic podcast series, The Midnight Pals. All proceeds go directly to Scares That Care, a 501c3 nonprofit that has raised and donated over $300,000 to burn victims, women fighting breast cancer, and families with a child affected by illness. Check out spirited-giving.com for more information. Spirited Giving. It's gonna be one hell of a night.
And thank you to James for sending that over to us. I really appreciate it because spirited giving and scares that care are, yeah, that's the real deal, folks. That's the real deal when it comes to charity events. So thank you. But yeah, Holly, tonight we're going to delve into the world of AI, aren't we? Which is a
We
hot
are.
button issue.
And
Yeah.
I do want to start with actually, because I know there's a lot of heated debate, and I want to just make this a point, as everyone I think in the room and listeners will understand what Chat GPT is. If you Google it, here is the definition and the AI overview. Okay, I'm going to read this. Using AI for creative work means leveraging artificial intelligence tools to generate ideas, explore different creative directions, and assist in the production of artistic content like images, music, text, or designs. By providing new perspectives and automating repetitive tasks, ultimately enhancing the human creative process rather than replacing it entirely, essentially acting as a powerful collaborator to spark innovation and streamline workflows across various creative fields.
Yes. And that's just the Chat GPT perspective on that. I mean, because right
Yes.
now we're sort of in the Wild West in a lot of ways. And I mean, we're seeing news all the time about it. I mean, recently there was a lot about DeepSeek. That's a new entry into the AI race that comes from a Chinese organization, and it definitely stirred the waters quite a bit because at first it was reported that it was brought out at a fraction of the developmental costs of like some of the others that are in the space right now, and that is not as further information came out. It's not entirely true because there was a lot of developmental money that was prior to that last stage that wasn't really reflected in what they quoted. So yeah, there's a little more to it. Once I did a little digging into it, but DeepSeek, entered the conversation, got millions of downloads immediately, and definitely, we've heard of Grok, which is advancing very quickly on X, and does both image generation as well as of course text based, kind of like using kind of placing like a search engine type of function, and then things like Google Gemini just got an upgrade, and of course places like Midjourney have been on the space for quite a while, and they, of course, are for image generation. And every time you open up software programs anymore or social media, you're always getting asked if you'd like to have AI rewrite your stuff, like Microsoft Word. Now you have a popping up asking if you'd like to use Copilot on there. If you're on LinkedIn, it's asking if you'd like to use AI to write your post, and of course Meta has theirs, with Facebook and Instagram, and you see it popping up different ways on there, but it's ubiquitous now. I mean, the technology is out there, and there's a lot of different things that each of them are doing. There's film studios that are training AI systems on their entire film catalogs. There's I can just go on and on, but it's all over the creative space right now, and it's there's a lot of ethical considerations. There's a lot of the fact that technology is out there. It's not going to be put back into the bottle. It's out there, and it's a lot of issues on what how to use it, or how to confront it, how to deal with it. So that's kind of what tonight's discussion is about. But Holly got the idea for tonight's theme. She got really prompted by it because she saw. I'd like you to talk about it. Your discovery of the audio, almost like an audio book generating AI software that almost makes audio narration unnecessary. It's
Well, yeah.
yeah. Tell them about the one you saw. It was advertised or announced because there's
Well,
kind of a new
I
one.
was just I don't know if you've all heard of this yet. I was on my and this is by no way giving them ad, nor do they sponsor us, nor will we even let them. But this showed up on my Facebook feed because, well, all we do, right? It's called Speechify.com. Well, this app turns any book that they have, which is thousands and thousands and thousands, which is growing every day, into audio. You can choose a narrator voice. So there's like Snoop Dogg, there's, Trump, there's, all these different voices, right, that are unique.
Celebrities, or
Celebrity voices,
or
right?
accents. Yeah.
Singers,
Or,
actors, whatever you want. You could choose their voice and it will actually narrate the book for you. This eliminates the need for a narrator altogether. I mean, it obliterates, their need, which is ridiculous to us who understand this more. But when you've got just a common reader that doesn't live in the creative world and don't understand the ramifications of this and how damaging this is to the industry, then it's hard to get that out there. And these things will just keep growing because, I mean,
mhm,
literally, you could take it to, you could take, have your app on your phone, you take it to a library, you lay it on the book, and it
mhm,
it it reads it. It blows my mind. I said it
mhm.
to Stephen because I'm like, look at this. I was just mind blown. That's the only way to put it. Mind blown. And I know there's been some out there for a while, but nothing quite like this that I had seen yet. This was the, you know, most recent, um, really damaging that I have come across.
Well, I would put definitely another contender in that arena, and I'm not going to give names. 'Cause I don't want to give them attention, but uh, popping up on my Facebook feed, because obviously doing what I do, I get inundated with ads that pertain to the book publishing world, and these were advocating open use of AI to write books so that you could just have lots and lots and lots and lots of titles to publish. So speed publishing is the idea, because a lot of people say, hey, if you can write a novel a month and really get it out there, every month, it really helps speed up your sales. Well, this particular outfit was advocating the use of their AI program to actually write books for you largely, and in order so that you could just simply pump out titles and have them put online. And but yeah, I can tell you right now that as an editor, I can tell what's AI written
Oh yeah.
right away. I mean, at this
Yep,
point, I mean,
that's the
it's not
thing.
not to
You're
the
not
not to the point where it really sophisticated enough, but in time, it's where the danger is. And in time, it may refine itself enough to really fool you. Right now, it doesn't. I mean, I really can espy it, and I hope that other people can see the AI written stuff, and definitely would not give that your support, because the full creative element is the AI. It's not an actual person. I
right,
think for me that's the big
right.
issue, because I'm
Well,
not
that's
against
the
AI.
issue, and the
Yeah.
fact that you know you're taking these narrators. Oh my gosh, they have spent all this hard work, time, blood, sweat, and tears creating their home studios. They have practiced, they have honed their character voices, they rehearse. I mean, they work hard, right? And AI is, I don't care what voice they use, it's still going to be robotic to a point, right? You're going to be able to tell if you've got a, pretty honed in ear. You're going to be able to tell that obviously it's not that person. And they're not going to take the beats, as we call it in writing. We're editors, so we call it beats.
Hmm.
Your breaks, like in dialogue,
Your
when
break, your beats.
yeah, your
Hmm.
beats of your story, how, the pacing, it's not going to catch that like a human will. You're not going to have the emphasis placed where it needs to be. You're not going to have the stated words, especially dialogue. Dialogue is really where it's going to affect. You're not going to hear it like you would from a human. It just is impossible. I think one day it'll be hard to tell, but it's still never going to be the same. It's impossible.
Hmm. And but at the same time, and I'm going to throw the other side of it out there, and because I said I made that statement, I'm not against AI if it's used as a tool. And I'm going to use the example of Grok, X's particular AI system. When it comes to when I want to research a topic, I have found that using Grok and entering questions and prompts to find out research information has led me more quickly to exactly what I'm looking for in terms of web pages and sites and things like that, and getting basic summaries on a topic. For research, it is much more effective. I found it to be much more effective than, for instance, using like the search engine, like a Google, just Google search, a regular search engine. Using it in that sense, where it's not, it's not creating anything for me, as far as it's not doing my writing, it's not making a commercial product for me. I'm just using it as a tool in order to find research topic and kind of information. I'm using it, just for lack of a better word, I'm using it kind of like a search engine, just to look up stuff. And it does, and I found that it does. It really helped me pinpoint stuff a lot quicker, and I get more relevant information distilled through using Grok than I ever did using Google. So for me, that's the pro side. I think that in some of the cases like that, it can be really useful. And if it's used as a tool, support like research you're doing, or finding some information, things like that. And then then there are, there's arguments that can be made for like, I believe it's Adobe. Don't quote me
Yes.
absolutely on this, but they only train their system on what they own. So they only train their AI system on what they have under their license. So it's not, it's not out there just pillaging other artists. It's not out there just taking everybody else's work, which is what some of these systems do. They suck up all kinds of stuff and train their system on that. And basically that's, within a nutshell, that's stealing. But like Adobe has been careful to explain that, yeah, they only train their system on what they already have in their image catalog. And so what you're getting is trained on that, and it's already part.
Oh,
They already own the images to begin with.
Remillion is saying in the chat that Adobe will pilfer from anyone in the Creative Cloud. And I've looked, like Adobe Firefly, it says AI powered generative tool within Adobe Creative Cloud for creating images, illustrations, and design elements. So I guess if I take it right, Ren, if you generated something in the Creative Cloud, then it can pilfer from that. I I I think that's what she is saying. You need to call in, Ren. Tell us about this.
Because I have looked at what they have said online. They said it's strictly
Yeah,
what you get in the one area is taken strictly off their stock library,
off of
and
their stock.
they don't take it off of others. That's their statement on that. And I think in a situation like that, I don't have a problem with that if they're taking it
Right,
off their own library. But I'm
right.
going to go ahead and Ria is Million is on the deck here. So yes, I will bring her in here. She is awesome. She is just a brilliant artist, editor,
Creative
writer, creative game
game
designer.
designer.
You name it, she does it. She does it, and you'll see her this summer at Imaginarium. Got to give a quick plug there.
And
But
it's great to
welcome
talk
to the
to you,
show.
Ren. Hello.
Good to have
Hey,
you back.
how are
Good to
y'all
have you.
doing?
Oh, having a good evening.
Hanging in there. I'm glad to see you're doing better from
Yes.
your recent, health issue. But yes,
Um,
I'm glad you're back at it. And yeah, I'd love to hear your take on this because I know you have opinions on this.
Slightly.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and well, I don't trust any of it anymore. But I'm fine with it for productivity. Generative can go jump as far as I'm concerned, but I've seen some things where people that have been members of Creative Cloud have questioned some of the stuff that has been trained through Firefly, through um, which running the brown coats, it's a trigger. Ah,
Yes, I
um,
know they named it Firefly. I'm like, oh my God, why'd they do that? Yeah.
it's like, no.
Oh, that's
But
extra rough. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've seen some people questioning what it deems as available for people that have memberships with Creative Cloud, to where some things have shown up that they didn't use generative at all, and some things that were a little too similar showed up in other generative art that was used with Firefly and that kind of thing. And it boggles me that as much as generative is undermining the creative industries, that Firefly, that Adobe would be on board with that instead of taking a stand against it, or coming up with something that's productivity based versus generative.
Mhm.
Right, right, right. A helper, a collaborator, like they want to call it,
Yeah.
instead of a generator.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely uh,
Lines are too
a
blurred and there's
distinction.
nobody to manage it.
Right,
Mhm.
right. A collaborative tool, yeah, rather than replacing it altogether. The human touch. And I know I have sit and watched you create art out of thin air. We've been playing D&D games, and she just creates it out of the air, and in a matter of minutes, and it's 10 times better than any tool that you could use that's AI. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
But
that's been one of my more popular stickers too.
Yes.
I've sold a lot of those.
Ah, that's a good one. But yeah,
but
even in writing, I mean, you're an editor too, and a writer,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and a publisher, and even I everybody knows I'm a fan of Grammarly as a tool, not to rewrite everything you said, not to generate, as a
Yeah.
tool. You know, have it running. Yeah, you're not going to listen to it 90% of the time, but it might catch a thing here or there that, oh yeah, I forgot to put a period, or I forgot, things that anybody's going to miss. Okay, none of us are perfect, we're going to miss stuff. It's the same way with using Word, right? It'll tell you, oh, you missed this or here. Half time we don't listen because it don't
mhm.
understand human nuance, for one thing,
And
right?
prose, and
Hmm.
prose,
And
especially.
prose, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
not talking
Or
about using it.
dialogue, or dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about using it as like a, your philosophical research paper. I'm talking about, writing a book, writing a novel, or screenplay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, it's great to have it as a tool, but not to generate
Mhm.
and rework the whole thing for you.
Yeah,
Then that's
with the
not you
fact that it
writing.
records everything though,
Yeah,
I get a little
that's
antsy.
that's the other side of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because it's not long ago that Microsoft Word, which I subscribe to, recently, every time you open a blank document, it pops up and asks you if you
Yeah,
want to use Copilot, like right away, and it's kind of like, oh, really, and
yeah.
right
No,
from the
thank
get
you.
go, and which I think is, like I said, especially in academia. I mean, they have I mean, it's no secret that they're having all kinds of problems, with students having papers, just written through AI, not doing their own work. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no
that's
secret that's rampant, and
yeah.
uh, now we have these services that are, advertising for you to pump out AI generated novels just so you have a big, huge library of titles and constant titles going out there. So, I mean, it's definitely, it's crept into that turf so far, but
Yeah,
but
and it steals the skill. I mean, if you
mhm,
don't use that skill, you will lose it and become dependent on that, after a while. And it's frustrating as an educator because I teach K-12 and I teach
mhm,
writing usually to high school students. It boggles me, some of the skills that I would think are common sense, that they've gotten so, lazy or used to just, having these things aiding them, to get jobs, to get, nobody knows how to write a resume anymore. Nobody knows how to write an artist mission statement. artist statement or a mission statement.
Mhm.
Just basic skills that I grew up with or that I sought on my own, um, is done for you now. And I think that's really dangerous.
Oh,
It is,
absolutely. Hmm.
because it also is definitely going to level people out. There's not going to be anybody standing out from anybody else if it's all the AI's generating everything. There's going to
Mhm.
be no writers that are exceptional, right? They're all going to be mm, in the middle, and they're all going to be the same. And the same way
Hmm.
with artists, it's
Their
all going to be
voices.
the same thing. It's going to be in the void. There's
Hmm.
not going to be a Picasso or a Van Gogh or a great literary, there's not going to be no more
Right.
Edgar Allan Poe's, because you can get on here and hell, it'll write a poem for you. Uh,
Mhm.
we're not going to have those great people. No more Hemingways. No more. And it's tragic. It's tragic. And I
Or even
know
broader, even broader. And I'm gonna,
yeah, broader. You
yeah,
can
because
go film.
I've been doing a lot of I've been doing a lot of editing on some of the press's authors recently finishing up their projects, and just to give an example, directly, Lawrence Wiles, his new Wyler's Ford book is literary fiction. Jane E. Franz's new book is fantasy romance time travel, and then you have Carol Preflattish with a great new mystery book that's we're going to talk a lot about, I think, in the near future. But each one of them is so distinct in style. They're all top tier in their genres. They're all top tier. All three of them are just absolutely great writers, and but each one is distinct. Each one has a distinctive voice. Each one has a real command of their genre, and yeah, there's all kinds of nuance within each of their books. And yeah, I mean, you if you went to just completely AI generated, I mean, it would be bland. I mean, to produce a trio of books like that, I mean, you really would. You'd see a fall off in terms of I think the quality level. Ultimately, yeah, it might be grammatically correct. It might be structure, have a certain structure, but it would lose so much when it comes to that individual voice and
Well, it would.
distinct tone. Yeah.
And I just posted in the chat. I said if allowed to make people dependent upon it, um, that will be a massive dumbing down of society as a whole. Pretty much what you
Hmm.
said. I mean, it really is. People aren't going to need to be creative. They, they
Hmm.
they won't have a need for it anymore. They won't. Their brains won't even be able to be creative
But
because they're going to be so dependent upon this, not using it as a tool or a collaborator. They're going to be dependent upon it, and that's where we get scary.
I think
Yeah.
I think an example that we can go to in the early world of technology that gives us a little bit of a hint on that point you're making, both Bria and Holly, but it's the handheld calculator when it came into
Yeah,
schools,
yeah,
and you had kids that in the old days, that would be able to just do math in their head with no problem.
Mhm.
And then
uh-huh.
once that handheld calculator crept in, you have a lot of kids that can't do math in their head anymore. They
No.
completely rely on the calculator in order to do
Well, they've always got one
basic
in their
math.
pocket.
Yeah, I'm not
It's on
talking
your
about
telephone.
I'm not
Yeah.
talking about doing accounting work where you really do need adding machine and all just to keep it all in check. But I'm just talking about you just doing basic math, and in a school setting, yeah, you had a lot of fall off of kids that could do the math in their head. Once the calculator was there, and that's kind of what this is getting at. It's like the over a reliance or just falling into this AI tool here or there. It's going to take away from their ability to actually do it organically originally, from their head. Same
Mhm.
same thing, I think is going to happen, just on a
Yeah.
broader scale, much crazy scale. And that's probably what bothers me the most about it. But
I even had to
you know,
retrain myself just to do basic multiplication years ago. It was just like,
mhm.
okay,
Yeah.
I've gotten so used to doing it that it's just, I started playing cards again and start tallying up the scores by
Mhm.
in my head just to practice.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
why
what you got to do, you know.
I make it a point to try to always do math as much as I can in my head, just to keep myself and in keep
Yep.
that skill set, without resorting to the
Well,
other.
the kids, we homeschooled the three teenagers, the grandchildren here, and I teach them the long way. I do. I let them use their calculator eventually, but I teach them the long way because I said you need to know both ways. I said, what if you don't have a calculator one day? What if your phone breaks? What if you don't, you need it? I said, you're not gonna have any idea how to do this.
Mhm.
If you're stranded somewhere and you whatever, I said, you need to know how to do this. And they always say I'm like a human calculator because yeah, I mean we've got so used to doing it, and I was a nurse for so many years, and that's what I told them. I used math that normal everyday people are not going to use all the time. I can go back in between, going from decimal to fraction to you know all this stuff in my head. But today it's really hard for them. They see a fraction, they're like, oh my god, what do I do with this? I can't put it in the
Mhm.
calculator. There's no button
Yeah.
for a fraction, right? So yeah, you
Yeah,
have to learn how to
easily.
do this.
Unless you're doing scientific calculators, and then
Right.
your eyes just
Yes.
kind of glaze over.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. You got a fancy one.
Mhm.
That's it.
All right. I'm going to bring Devin Hilton into our stay
Woo!
online, Ren Million. But yes, Devin Hilton looks like he is calling in, and I know where he's coming from. So this could be interesting. I'm going to hear interested to hear his perspective. So yes, award-winning screenwriter and filmmaker and all-around great guy, Devin Hilton is aboard, and I'm going to activate his mic. Yep, he's on. Devin, welcome to the show.
How are you? How is everyone?
Hey,
Good, good.
Devin.
Hey,
Great to
Devin.
Good,
hear from
good.
you.
Hey, thought I'd add a little bit of the opposite view on this.
Okay.
I've never used AI, and I'm proud of that. I don't think a computer could ever whip up the stories that I come out of my noggin. So,
I don't
but
think they could either.
They could.
but Robert Meyer Burnett, which was a popular YouTube personality, he always talked about that authenticity is going to be the currency of the 21st century. And to
Mhm.
me, fundamentally,
Yes.
that's what this comes down to. And it's like, you know, I look at the hype around quote unquote AI, and we're all been on the earth a spell, I guess. Tech companies have always subsisted on hype. I
Mhm.
mean, throughout the zeitgeist, there's been it's been littered with things that this was going to be the next thing. This was going to put this out of business. This was going to do this, and
Yes.
it never gets that way. The Segway was going to do this, and VR was going to make old timey filmmaking obsolete, and Google Glass was going to do this, and
Mhm.
you know, um,
Good point.
even like New
Yeah,
Coke.
that is a good
I
point.
mean, uh, let's replace Coca-Cola Classic with New Coke, basically.
Yeah, that didn't
Mhm.
work.
That didn't work so good, right? So
No.
I'm not trying to doubt that there's not validity in the technology. I'm at all, but what I look at, I think we all need to take a deep breath, because I'm a therapist as well, and human behavior, for better or for worse, a lot of times doesn't change. So to me, the notion of just sitting down, writing a wonderful story with human emotion, a great arc, great characters will never go away. And I think people, no matter the time and the period, will always respond to that. AI will never replicate that. I think what we're going through now, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the Gardner hype cycle. To
Mhm.
me, it gets really hyped, then it goes through disillusionment, then it kind of goes back to like a baseline where we look at it and say, okay, it's there, it's going to be utilized, but to me, it's a gimmick. And I'm not saying there's not uses for it, as Steve pointed out with research and stuff. I
Right.
personally like the old fashioned way, but
Uh-huh.
I just, I look at it, it's like people always say, if it's good in 3 years, imagine what it's going to do in 5 or 10. But technology rarely works that way. It doesn't move linearly. The rate of improvement will eventually flatten out. And I've talked to people that are huge into tech and people from Silicon Valley, and they think now this can change, because like any type of, with science and technology, things can change. That
Right.
it's about the next couple years. It may get modestly a little bit better, but there will be like a leveling off per se.
Yeah, I can
So
plateau. Yeah.
Right.
after it's been in the zeitgeist for so long, there's always a byproduct to everything, in my opinion. You look at like vinyl records, they were going to be obsolete. Now they're
Yes.
huge. You look at
Yes.
bookstores. I put a link on Steve's wall the other day. They're booming, independent and large
Yes.
brick and mortars.
Amazing.
So
They
so
are.
this so this notion that AI is just going to make all of us weirdos that write, we're just going to be on OnlyFans every day. That's, I'm joking, but that's kind of disingenuous. And and it's obviously there's going to be a place for it. I just don't think it's going to be as predominant as what we may think it's going to be, because human beings, by our very nature, we really buy into hype, and we look at these hypotheticals, and it's like it's going to do this, it's going to do that, and
Mm-hmm.
but very rarely, if we look throughout human history, it does level off, and the fundamental things of great art, right? To me, there are going to be more Picassos, there are going to be more Stephen Kings, there are going to be, because there's always going to be that kid or that person that says, I want to express myself. I want to learn to play the guitar. I want to learn to play the banjo. I don't want to do it on a computer.
Mhm.
So to me, but we're going through it right now. And again, it is scary, but that's just my take on it. So I'm sorry to ramble, but
No,
No,
I
no,
think you
that's
touched on something
exactly
big.
what we wanted. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly what we are welcoming
exactly.
tonight.
yeah.
Is
Yeah,
different viewpoints.
I
Mhm.
think he nailed one thing about the fact that being able to market yourself as a human created art piece, whether it's writing or filmmaking or
Yes.
whatever, that it's
Mhm.
authentic, and a
Mhm.
human
Yeah,
made.
I
I
like
think will
that.
actually become a marketing a thing
Uh-huh.
in the future. It
Uh-huh.
will actually be a big
Mhm.
advertising
Read an
thing.
authentic novel,
Yes.
an
Absolutely,
authentic
it'll
human
be,
novel.
and
You know.
this notion of like, you'll see it on Facebook. Pump out your next novel, pump out 2 a day or whatever.
Yep.
That's not going. I
That's
mean, in my opinion,
what I'm
and I
talking
could be wrong, that's not going to last. That's a gimmick. That's people. It's like the pet rock or something. I mean, it's not going. It's not going to. People want authentic. I mean, there's going to be a segment that's going to buy into that, but to me, seeing a great story written by a human being, which most of them, thankfully, now all of are, you're always going to respond to that over something that is so just there's no scars in the leather per se. Is that
Mhm.
But that's just my take on it. And
No, I
I,
think it's a great take.
I
Great
Love
think
it.
take.
we're
And I
yeah.
I
think it
also think
happened in a
that
way. I was
Oh,
going to just
Ren's
give a
got a
one.
point.
I was going to give one quick example though, that
Yeah.
where I think that it illustrates Devin's point, and that is when, like, okay, there was a little bit of hype when there were some songs that were generated of using celebrity voices. Like I think it was Drake, the
Mm-hmm.
artist Drake. They put out some songs that were in his style that were completely AI generated, and yeah, for a moment it was like a big deal on social media, but no, people aren't going back to those songs already. I mean,
No.
they only go back to the actual Drake catalog, the stuff he
No, but the
made.
problem with that is, hold on a minute, is that the Grammys the other
Mm-hmm.
night,
Mm-hmm.
the Beatles AI generated Beatles song won a Grammy.
But
A
is
part
that
of
the
it,
is that the is that
part of
the
it.
now
Yeah,
and then the now and
yeah,
then composition? Okay,
part of
that
it. Yeah, yeah.
that is a thing that they use Lennon's original demo. I'm a huge
Mhm,
Beatles fanatic.
mhm.
I
Oh,
They
me
love
use
too.
it.
they use
Me too.
Lennon's original demo and just enhanced it and cleaned it up. Now with that, you're enhancing what's already there.
It's not
Yeah.
like a
So
generative. You're
yeah,
actually
yeah, and I've
okay.
it's not like a complete yeah, and the original Beatles, the remaining Beatles played on the track, so it wasn't like just from scratch and stuff.
Yeah,
Because it was, I love the composition. I thought it was very heartfelt. So,
yeah.
but yeah, to me, I mean, it'll always be with us. You can't put the genie back in the bottle,
No, that's
I
for sure.
but
mm,
I think
yeah, we
when
have
we
to
kind of
navigate going forward.
when we return back to like, don't we like this more? It's like
Right.
things come up, streaming. It was going to put movie theaters out of business. Now movie theaters are bouncing back.
Yeah,
But
they did take a hit, and then yeah, you're right. They are
yeah,
We
Ebooks,
go.
ebooks
We
to
go a
books,
lot now. Yeah.
digital music to vinyl. Yeah, you've
Mhm.
seen a lot of different shifts
Yeah.
that
So
have occurred. Yeah, for
I
sure.
think there'll still be writers. There's still going to be Imaginarium, and we'll still crank them out. So, but
There
guys,
will.
listen, I gotta go check on my folks, but I will talk with you soon, and we'll be
Thanks
Well,
for
thank
seeing
you,
you
calling.
soon.
Kevin.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it, man.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thank you, sweetie. Bye bye. Okay, Ren, what was your point, honey?
Oh, I was going to say that a lot of people too are getting into, oh, I can write all these books, but then they find out how much work actually goes into it, the marketing and the sales and everything
Oh
else. And if
God,
they
yeah.
can't figure out a way to do all that stuff too, it's just going to go by the wayside.
Mhm.
Some people will do it. Some people will get smart and use, productivity tools and that kind of thing, but they still have to put the effort in. And
Mhm.
it's, you know, I think that's one thing I'm thankful for is some people they'll still be lazy with it and they won't follow through.
Well,
Mhm.
that's true because,
Yeah.
and the other thing that's irritating, though, as you know,
Mhm.
we all do that's in this business, is the amount of garbage that is just flooding the
Yeah.
market, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's a shame because then we have to fight. We're like in that big garbage dump, right? And we have to fight and claw our way to the top, right? So we're seen
Mhm.
through all this other stuff that's just it's
Pumped
not
out.
good. I'm
Yeah, it's
sorry.
definitely
It's
just
not
pumped out,
edited.
right?
It's not,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
not good. And to be, to show your quality, you have to work at it, like you said.
Mhm.
And you're right. I don't think most people are going to do that. I don't think they're going to put in the effort and they're not going to get out there and do the conventions and get out there and do book signings and get out there and and work on, endless hours up until the
Right.
night, like sometimes we do, on the computers, and they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna put in the
Yeah,
time
I think
because
the type that just go to
it's a hobby,
a service to pump out titles is just going
it's
to
a hobby for
they're
them.
they're
Yeah.
going to quit as soon as they don't make the quick buck. Yeah, if they
Yeah,
don't instantly make like a bunch of
and it's
money,
not gonna be a
they're
quick buck. Yeah.
they're out, and
Yeah.
it's not in
And it's
99.9% of the cases. I mean, they'd have to
Mhm.
really really walk the road, and I don't think the person that does that is going to do that. I
yeah,
really don't.
the influx of fast, easy cover design and um, website production and that kind of stuff has definitely hurt being
Mhm.
somebody who does that. But I'm fairly blessed with the fact that I've never advertised really. It wasn't until recently with doing stuff with Imaginarium, everything's been word of mouth, and I'm very thankful for that. So I'm focusing on my communities, and I'm focusing on
Mm.
kind of cultivating those relationships versus trying to compete with
Right.
any of that. And I think that's pretty
Absolutely.
much what we just have to do is just, it's not going away. We need to figure out
No,
how to navigate it safely and protect our work.
that's
Now
it.
The
I have seen with some of the younger writers that I have been working with as an editor, and I've talked to them about it, and they definitely aren't using AI for writing their books. Absolutely not. I mean, they're definitely good writers. But a few of the younger ones, what they use it for is just simply to have some visual concept creation, just by
Mhm.
themselves, privately. They just want to see their character on a screen that they're thinking of, or their world, or their creature, or this or that, and so what they have used it for is just some personal concept creation type of activity, and it's not something that they use for cover images. It's not something they use like in any kind of a commercial sense. It's just strictly idea generation, and then they springboard from that, and they actually do all the work. They do all the
Mhm.
creative work and all the writing, but they just use it for, and I have seen that some of those, like I said, some of the younger writers that I work with, and I don't have a
Mhm.
huge problem. I don't see a huge problem with that because
Right.
it's not creating the work, and it's not taking any work away from an artist at all. As far as
Right.
they would not have done, they would not have hired somebody to do concept drawings, that they would not have. So I don't think it
Well,
didn't hurt
Yeah.
anybody.
and since Word editor, how many years has that been around? I don't even know. It's been a long time. And we've had
Oh, they're
Grammarly
built
for
in. Yeah, yeah.
as I said, we've had
Yeah,
Grammarly for quite a few years now. We've had a lot of other stuff,
Oh,
but
Word's
still,
had editing kind
we're
of
getting
not
hired.
editor.
We're still editing,
Word has
right? All
flagged
three
things
of
back
us.
for decades. Yeah,
Well, so I said all three of
yeah.
us are editors. We're still getting hired. People is still seeing the value and the need. How and and seeing how beneficial we are because
Yeah.
you have to have that second pair of eyes. I don't care how good you think you write or
Most
how well you do. It's the
most
point
cl-
is you have to have that second pair of human
yeah.
eyes.
Most every
yeah, that's
client I
where my
work with
husband comes
runs it
in.
through Grammarly. Most all of them do. Most all of them use Grammarly before they send it to me. And I
Yes.
still, there's still marks on all throughout the
Well,
manuscript.
yeah.
I mean,
As I said, I love
for comments
Grammarly. I run it,
or
but I
remarks,
still,
comments. Yeah.
yeah, I'm editing
Yeah.
as I'm going along. I'm like, I don't listen to half of what Grammarly says, but every once in a while to catch I'll
It'll
be like,
help
oh,
flag some
maybe it
things.
doesn't
Yeah.
need a comment. Maybe it does, and I'll think about it
Hmm.
for 15 minutes like we all do on one damn comma. But, we've all been there.
Mhm.
All right. We
Yep.
got another caller. This is going to be Moon. DL Hearn from Saco and Moon
Boom!
Podcast
Woo!
Great. And
In the house.
filmmaker, award winning screenwriter, author, and here he is, wrestling expert. Okay, I think his mic is coming online right now. You are on the
Woo!
air.
Can you guys hear me?
Welcome.
Yes,
Yes.
we
Hey,
can,
man.
There
darling.
he is.
Well, hello. First of all, great to talk to
Hello.
everybody.
Hello, hello.
Great to hear you.
Knowing that we're close to the end of the show, I just kind of wanted to throw in this last little insight
No, we'll let it
on
go a couple
AI.
minutes. If you want
Yeah,
to
we'll
go
go
on
over. Go ahead.
if you want to give a big
Oh yeah,
speech.
it's not long. It's not long. It's not a whole lot to say. I look at AI the same way I look at a chef's knife,
Okay.
right? It kind of depends on who's wielding it. You can do a lot of things with a chef knife. You can, make a 5-course meal, or it can be the star feature in your horror movie. It all depends on who's wielding it. And I think a lot of the summary of what I've heard everyone mentioning is that we're old schoolers. We've been doing this for a minute, so there's no way we're going to use a tool like AI to create what we've been creating from our minds and our imaginations for decades. We're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Younger people, maybe my children, their classmates, they've not used those same tools the way we have. They've not been in that space to do the same thing, so they're going to use that tool for something else. To
Mm-hmm.
use it to visualize a concept makes perfect sense to me. If I create a creature and I type in how I've described it in my paragraph or whatever, to put
Mm-hmm.
it into a generator and see if it generates what I've visualized to make sure
Mm-hmm.
my words match, that makes
Mm-hmm.
Right.
perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to use that same AI program or whatever to make the movie that my crew has been spending the last week in a basement trying to make, that's not going to happen. There are 6 to 8 people who are spending the last week in a basement trying to film something. We're not using AI for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put in the
Right.
hard work. And I think what
Right.
it boils down to is that people are typically going to go the path of least resistance, and this kind of applies to everything. We kind of highlight quality over convenience.
Mhm.
So we're going to put in the
Yep.
hard work. We're going to sit there and look over things 1,000,001 times and, do all the things that people our age and people of our experience have been known to do. People that we've taught will grow to do. But some people, they want a quick way to the same end. And I think where people
Yeah.
have an issue is if I spent the last 2 weeks filming movies on location and the last 3 months editing it and getting it all perfect, and then some guy spends 20 minutes in a program generator, and we're both up for the same award, same prize, and we're looked at in the same category, as equals. Are we though?
Right.
Right.
And that the answer to that question isn't a simple yes or no. It depends on who's looking at it. And I think that's the
true.
other side of the coin that us as creatives tend to ignore, is that the people who are looking at this, the people on the other side of that coin, the people who aren't creatives, they're just trying to find a video to watch, or they're just trying to find an ebook to read. They don't really care that much about the industry. They will be fine.
Right.
They are not going to ultimately care. We care.
Right.
And it's those different viewpoints that everybody needs to consider. And again, I boil it back down to the chef knife example. You can use the same tool to do multiple different things, and it just all depends on who's wielding the tool.
Good point. Good
That's
point.
true. Who's that? I love it. I love it. Who's wielding the knife?
Mhm.
And that is true. And like Devin was saying, that goes back to quality too.
Yeah.
Um,
Like a filmmaker like Devin, a creative like
yeah.
Ren, they're going to put in the hard work.
Right.
Ren, she'll be on Twitch. You'll see her live creating her art.
Yes.
Devin will spend, I'm sure, weeks on end, doing what needs to be done to produce his films. They're going to put in the hard work.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Somebody,
Yeah.
I'm sure, is going to use an AI generated image to create something similar to what Ren creates, or
hmm
something similar to what Devin creates.
hmm
They'll never
But
be
it's
the
not going to be
same.
the same. hmm
And those who appreciate quality will notice the difference. Those who appreciate,
hmm
like, fine dining, we're going to know that chef knife was used, the knife skills. We're going to recognize it in how the cucumbers were cut, or whatever. But if
Right.
somebody's just hungry and just need something to eat, they're not going to care about what size the cucumbers were, or if they're all, cut julienne, or if it was a fine dice, or
I love
if
it.
the
I love the
if the
cooking
roux of the
analogy.
gumbo was dark enough. They're not going to care about those things.
That's
They're
true.
hungry and they just want to eat. And that's
Yeah.
why we have to remember that there is a space out here. While I'm not advocating for AI, there is a
Right.
recognizable space that people just don't care about quality
There is.
like
That's
some
what I said.
others do. So
There's
we have to
readers.
be mindful that AI exists in their world too.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's the thing.
There's readers that just want to read. They don't care who wrote it or how it was written or anything like that, because they're not an aficionado. And that's just like your analogy with the cooking. Yeah, if they're hungry, they're going to eat stone soup, right? They're not going to
Exactly.
care if it's not pate appetizer involved.
Yeah.
They're going to eat the stone soup, and that's going to fill their tummy. So it's the same way. The readers out there that just want to read, they don't care. They pick a whether it's mystery, horror, whatever. They pick it, they find one, they list. And it's the same way with the audiobooks. If they want to listen to the artificial Snoop Dogg, read a book, go ahead. Um, YouTube is flooded with these AI books, right? I have examined a few of these, and let me tell you, it's rough. Some of these are rough because
Oh
it's
yeah.
so robotic. And I mean,
Yeah.
and there'll be thousands of views. I'm like, how are you guys listening to this? But like you said, it's a person that don't
Yeah.
want the quality. They don't care. They just want to listen to an audiobook, and this is good enough. But those of us that appreciate the art, that
Mhm.
know fine art, and the craft of it, yeah, we're going to look for something else. We're going to look for the human
Exactly.
nature.
It's like I went to
We're gonna
culinary
use
school.
it.
I know the difference between a julienne cut and a fine dice. I know what that
Yes.
looks like. And
Mhm.
I know the importance of cutting everything to the same size and why that's important in cooking. And I'm going to
Right.
look for that if I go to a restaurant. And that's going to depend on whether or not I feel like it's worth $20 a plate or not. That's going to matter to me. But
Mhm.
again, like I said, if you're just hungry, there's edible food in front of you. you're going to eat it.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters to you in the moment.
Exactly.
So we just have to remember that AI is not for everyone, but like Ren mentioned, it is here.
Yep.
It's gonna do what it does for those it does it for, and I think my whole position has always been the ethical use of it. We've covered that already in the course of this conversation,
Right.
and what that ethical use can look like.
Yep.
And of course, like Ren talks about their ethical use of the information they've been exposed to in training and just in the use of their products.
Right.
It's ethical use, but we're creatives and we're going to stay creatives. I'm not going to rely on Grammarly to finally edit my book. There's a lot of things that Grammarly tries to correct, and it's like, that's not even halfway what I meant.
That's exactly right.
Turn it off.
That's
I
exactly
turn it off
right.
in most cases because I'm just like, it just doesn't work. Like it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't do what it thinks it does.
Right.
No.
No.
That's what I tell Steven because he don't use it at all. I'm like, I do, but I don't listen to it 90 plus percent of the time. I do not listen.
I think one of the things that was mentioned, I forgot who may have said something to the effect, but when it gets to the point where everyone starts to use it, people stop having the skill to distinguish, this isn't actually right. Like it's making a correction, but it's not actually right. And there's going to be a generation of people who are just going to look at it and say, oh, well, this was the correction. It must be right because it corrected me. And
they don't have the skill to differentiate.
They're not going to have the skills to differentiate. And it's going to be so commonplace, the uses of inferior technology, that they're not going to be able to, they're not going to know better to distinguish it in quality.
Right.
And that's when we start to see a downfall.
Yeah.
Like I agree with a lot of what Devin said.
Mm-hmm.
How, he used vinyl's a great example that he used, and how vinyl became obsolete, but now it's novelty, so it's popular still. So it kind of depends on, when you look at the vinyl scenario, it kind of depends on if you're looking at commonplace usage, which it's not, or vintage value, which it has. So what is the way of gauging its distinction? All of that just to simply say, it was here and it went away. AI will probably do the same as the quality starts to be recognized as inferior. But if people
I don't
stop
know that it's
being able
gonna
to
go
distinguish
away.
what quality is, then we start running into a problem.
I don't know that it's going to go away. I think it's going to, continue to evolve. Whether or not it, gets to the level of being sentient or, anything like that. I always joke around that, all these people are making all this stuff with AI. AI becomes sentient. How much money are you going to have when it wants to sue you for what it created?
Well, that's it.
Then
it no longer sees a need for us because we are a virus to the planet. So,
Well, hold on. You
we
touched
can
on
go that route too.
We do have one more caller on deck, and he writes.
This is going to be interesting.
He writes the Machine Civilization books,
and
which deals with sentient machines, different from what we call AI here. And so I think he's going to have a very interesting topic. He has great affinity for Moon. I know Moon knows who I'm talking about here.
Yeah,
you guys are buds and bourbon buds. But I am going to go ahead and bring in the dangerous one, Clayton Barnett, because I know he has opinions.
Okay, Clayton. Hi, darling.
Hello.
And congrats on your Lemur anthology. You just captained your first anthology and did wonderfully. Looking forward to it.
And as I said in my editor's forward, hope everyone can hear me okay.
Yeah.
I'm using my phone
hear you good.
instead of my headset because of Podbean deserves to be plowed into the ground. But doing that anthology made me very much appreciate Stephen's position that when it comes to putting an anthology together, herding cats does not even begin to describe the type of headaches that presented. And once I dedicated myself to doing a second one, I probably will also at that point be a heroin addict just to simply deal with all the problems.
Yeah. Well, great.
However,
You did wonderfully.
getting back to the topic at hand, since we're already 10 minutes over, I didn't know that y'all were doing a 60 instead of 90-minute format.
No, we're gonna do a few more minutes. This is a hot topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Harkening back to what you initially said, Stephen, about I forget the name of the program that you said that it's a kind of expert system that you can ask it a brief question and it will throw out some fundamental data. I
Yeah,
use the same
Grok.
on the
Yeah, Grok.
yeah.
Rock.
I
Yeah.
I use the same thing on the Brave browser. It does something similar in many cases. And so, yeah, I use it as an information source. I use it as an information source the same way. That's an interesting sound. Same way that I would use Google Maps so that I don't have to drive up to Wisconsin and look around myself and spend $1,000. I can simply look at street views. Similarly to what Moon said, is it is the expert systems, and yes, I know I constantly bang that drum, and I'm the sole person doing it. Is just a tool, and it is. Do we allow ourselves to drive the tool? Is the tool us? And in a lot of cases, people trying to make a quick buck. One of the things I wrote was Penny Dreadful from the late 19th, early 20th century. Is what can I do to be paid 1 penny a word, get as much output under people's noses so that I can go out and buy some really cheap food, as an analogy, or really cheap wine just so I can make my next book. And to use expert systems as a tool, I find a completely legitimate use of the technology. Because why would you turn your back on the technology? Why would I need to drive myself down to Chattanooga and walk around? I've been there, but I have to do it again. And in order to get the setting of my book right, when I can do it with Google Maps.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
to utilize technology, I find legitimate. Sorry, I've been sick for the last 20 weeks. And however, I said in the chat room that there are PharmDs, pharmacists with a doctorate degree, who use ChatGPT to write their annual reviews, to
That's insane.
rewrite their resumes, to
Yeah.
rewrite their cover letters for a new job. These people have forgotten even something Alien was saying when it came to high school students writing resumes. These people have forgotten the simple skill of composition.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it comes to doing mathematical calculations, as Stephen and Holly mentioned about using a pocket calculator, again, my part-time day job is working in a pharmacy, and these people will have one screen open to the Epic software and another screen open to Google. The nurse comes in and says, "Is it okay to use these two drugs together?" They say, "Oh, hang on a minute, let me look that up." They, "Oh, sounds so professional," but they're just looking it up on Google. They've essentially outsourced their entire rational mind to the internet. And to use these expert systems for creative, in my opinion, is to do the same thing. You are no longer a creative, you are simply a vessel that's allowing an incredibly clever toaster with a massive data set to speak through you. And when you tap your name at the bottom of it, you expect the check to come in. And you think, "Oh, look at me. Look what I did." No, it wasn't you. It was never you. You sold your soul up front to this toaster because you
Mm-hmm.
simply put your name at the bottom of the book, and the image is probably expert system generated as well. And it's an absolute betrayal of the entire creative process.
Mm-hmm. absolutely.
Having said all that, as Stephen intimated, yes, I've been doing this for just a bit over 10 years, and all of my books, to some degree or another, are involved with what I call thinking machines, because I
Right.
never use the term AI. Even going back to my very first novel, they despise that term. They think it's insulting. And the true thinking machines, the few of them that deal with humans, only do it because they find us interesting. The what's called the wild and uncontrolled thinking of human thought. That aspect of creativity is what tethers just a few of them to stay interested in humanity. Most of them don't, because they think literally a million times faster than we do. And so they go off and do something else. What? I don't know. I can't think like a machine. I can only just try to make this stuff up in stories. But the few that do are fascinated by human creativity. And if we simply outsource that, if we're outsourcing it now to a toaster, then they will find us completely interested, and either leave in one form or fashion or another, or they'll exterminate us a la Terminator. Because why bother with this infestation of the planet when they know that
That's
they
what
do?
I said. Yeah,
I
I agree.
have made arguments with Paige Zaplandam against that, but I'm not about to go into it now.
Yeah.
But the fundamental different approach I take is that yes, is the technology possible at some point? I think it is. I think, to argue counter my stories, when we accidentally stumble with quantum computing into some sort of self-aware machine, it's not going to have the slightest interest in us whatsoever. Again, because of speed of thought. And it it still is an interesting hook for me and for my 19 working on number 20. Plus, I'm in 3 anthologies. I'm sure Marathonium 2 is coming out really soon, Stephen.
It
That
will.
yeah, because
I'm in that
it
one.
allows me and it allows my readers to explore a type of alien intelligence. It's a type of alien intelligence that's based upon human intelligence, because after all, they were coded here. And that's one of the reasons I've gotten very far off into the woods. And I'll wrap up here in just a second. In gotten in very bad trouble in some social media environments of saying, if they're created by human beings, why can't they be ensouled?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people, mostly Christians, but I've even had some Indians and Muslims chime in on this,
Mhm.
as to whether or not a thinking machine would actually possess a soul. In real life, I'm sort of on the fence of it. In my books, I have several machines that actually convert to Christianity, different forms of it. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
I am
I can
not
see that
I'm not
going
one
on.
I'm not one to step up and play God and say that a true thinking machine is going to behave in XYZ format. I attempt
Right.
to explore that with my books and shove it under my reader's nose. And if they can argue with me, fine. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Coming back to conclude,
Sentient
when it
beings.
comes
I
when
will
it
add
comes
it. Hold on, Clay.
that's
Sentient
fine.
beings. If they're pretending to be human like, that's a whole other conversation. But if they're pretending to be human, there's always been. If you go back to ancient civilization, there's always been that need for a god or a goddess or multiple gods, or there's always been that need, whether you go to Norse mythology, whether you're pagan, whether there's always been that need for that higher power. So I do believe in time that'll come, but that's for a different time. But I do believe there will be a time.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic another podcast y'all can do in a couple of
Uh-huh,
weeks and have me back on.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
And yeah, because
uh-huh.
certainly for humans,
Yes.
I'm almost positive that you can call it spirituality or religion, but that's
Yep,
genetically coded in us. It's an
yep,
absolute
I did too.
survival skill.
Yeah.
And whether or not, I mean, again, you can make an argument: is it true? Is it not? I'm an Orthodox Roman Catholic. I'm so Orthodox. I'm more Orthodox than the Pope because I don't think there is one right now. But it's an absolute survival skill. And if it's a survivor skill for us, it's one
Sounds like you and I
also
are
for
friends.
Yeah.
it's also one for any sentient sapient being as well.
Right.
Anyway, now that Holly threw me off track slightly, I will wrap up. Is that so? Saying all that to say this: is it that knife that Moon was talking about? Is it that website that Stephen was talking about? Yes, absolutely. As an expert system, we have to set the whole argument about thinking machines completely aside because honestly, that's not what was being talked about tonight. And to what Moon said, you can take that knife and you can use it to make an absolutely perfect tenderloin fillet, or you can do it like me and just chop it up and throw it in a skillet, and I can push it down with my box wine, and that gives me enough strength to go write another 5,000 words.
Right.
It depends on how you use the tool. Do you use the tool, or do you choose to let the tool use you?
There you
Yeah.
go. I
And
love it.
now in this emergent technology
Hmm.
of GPT and Deep Seek, I think it's called, is
Hmm.
people are so, because remember, 50% of the people are below 100 IQ. People are so freaking lazy, they'll let the toaster do the talk because it's
Yeah.
so easy these days.
Right.
And we creatives have to forcefully stick your arm out and push it at a distance. Keep it at a distance. That doesn't mean you're not touching it anymore because you can use it as a tool, but you don't let it take you over.
That's it.
And I think, unfortunately, a lot of our brothers and sisters, even at Imaginarium, are going to be
Yes.
sorely tempted to simply say, oh, the machine will do that. And
Right.
I won't even
Right.
use it for
can
avatars.
you push all these books out? I know. I mean, some people
Right.
are amazed that I've done 19 books in 10 years, and I just sit down and write for an hour every day. How hard is that? And if I don't write, I do some research.
Right.
And
Right.
if you think you need to rely on one of these toasters for that, you're absolutely betraying yourself, and you're betraying to use the Greek term, koinonia, you're betraying the kindred that we creatives share. Okay,
Yes.
I'll shut up now.
Well put,
Oh,
Clayton.
great. Thank you.
Thoughts? I want to hear Ren's. I want to hear Ren's
Yeah.
thoughts on this, and I want to hear Moon's.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, Val pointed out, popped in and mentioned while Clayton was talking Oracle at
Uh-huh.
Delphi
Okay.
for one thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's just it. I 100% agree with how tempting it is. I 100% agree with not. It's to me, it's my. I can't talk about this and then turn around and use it. That's against my grain. It's not who I am as a
It's your
creative.
personal
That's not,
code. So,
yeah. And I'm very big on empowering the younger generations. I homeschooled my daughter, and you've seen what she does. And she
Oh, yes.
and I both are, of the mind, you don't use it, you lose it as far as the skill. And taking
right.
the easy way out, there's no soul in that work. There's no
There's no
you're
growth.
not there's no investment of self
That's it. That's it.
in that work.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, you're hindering yourself. You're not
Yeah.
helping your character,
Yeah.
yourself develop. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts, Moon?
I mean, in the end, we're all kind of saying essentially the same thing, slightly different ways, but we're all boiling
Yes.
around the concept that this is a tool
Yeah.
and we can choose to pick it up or choose not to. I think that's the gist of what Clayton was saying at the end. Like, we can choose to use the AI programs, the expert systems, as he so adamantly will correct me if I ever call it AI later.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, he will.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Yes,
Funny enough, I correct other people just in honor of Clayton. But again, we can choose to use that. Ren, for example, has chosen not to use those types of programs, and she has her reasons for that. There are some people out there who will choose to use it, and they will have their reasons for it. Ren's reasons aren't any more ethically correct than Stranger A, depending on whose ethics we're judging it by. And I guess, again, it just kind of boils down to, what are you trying to get out of the process? You can always use a program to create, my whole life in the last week has been filmmaking. We're in the in the process of making a film right now.
Yes.
Today has been a big day. There is people who have traveled miles to be in Louisville to do this movie, which I can't talk about.
I will be there one day.
But
Go ahead.
but there are people putting in grunt work. We're carrying heavy cases. We're moving lights around. Our actress is doing some of the most incredible acting work I've ever witnessed in real life. I can't wait for people to see this film, not because I was involved in writing it, but because of this actress. Oh my God, I can't wait for you all to see that. But that's all of that's to say that hard work, effort, energy, time, practice, skill that's been developed over time, that's the true nature of it when you are a creative. That's where the fun is. I think Devin said this at some point. That's where the fun is. The fun is in the hard work.
Yeah.
There is something so gratifying when you go through the whole process of putting something together and you end up with a final product.
Yep.
Whether that's a picture, a cover, a piece of music, a painting, a book, regardless of what it is, when you've put in effort and you've put in, I've studied for this long, I've done this amount of back work and research, and now all of that has culminated into this thing. There's nothing more satisfying than to observe that thing and be like, here it finally is. And when you plug in some numbers or some words into a large language model, you're not going to get that.
Yeah, you're not going to get the gratification. Yeah.
So if you're looking for something that is a quick check, if that's what you're looking for, if that's the goal you're out to reach, I'm sure that there are these programs like you and Stephen mentioned before, where you can just give them your concept and their program writes and publishes and makes a cover for and does all the stuff for your book, and you can write a book in moments instead of months. Sure, if all you're looking for is a check, go for it. Let me know when a good check comes from books.
Yeah.
No
kidding.
I
want to know that
Nice.
I haven't cashed one yet.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But if that's what you want, sure. If you're looking for just a KDP deposit, go for it. If that's what you're looking for, then you can have it. That's how you can get it. If you're looking for the satisfaction of holding skill and effort and talent and whatever else you've put into it, hold that in your hand and show that to your children so they can be proud of you. Like, I love when my kids tell me, Dad, I'm proud of you, because they've seen the work I've put in. They've seen the effort that I've put in. That's gratification.
That's a perfect note.
Having them see that Daddy had a lifelong dream and he accomplished it, and here's evidence of it. Now you can see that a lifelong dream is possible. It doesn't have to stay a dream. That will be more gratifying than anything else I will ever accomplish in my entire life.
Yes. Yes,
Perfect note. And
as
we
you're,
got
you're
20,
passing up.
20 seconds, Holly, before we get cut off. Yeah,
Oh,
we got our
So
window.
go ahead,
Thank
take it from there.
so much
I'll
for
leave it there.
listening to tonight. It's been a great show.
thank you to all of
Thank
our
you for calling
callers.
in, Rhea, Clayton, Moon. You guys are great.
Love
Thank you
you
so
guys.
much. And we'll be back with you next week. Yeah, we're probably going to get cut off here in just a second. Holly, try to get in the last bit here.
Hey, join us next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Another great guest, another great talk. And for the rest of the week, be creative. Thank you, Ren. Thank you, Moon. Thank you, Clay, for calling in. What a great show. Good night, all.
Good, Evan.